Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2020 and the second part of this experiment where we're taking a look at what would happen if you switched the Premier League with the Vanarama National League North. Now there's a couple of things to pick up from in the comments of the last episode. One of them was in the first season when we switched to Premier League and National League. You can see in the National League North that Kings Lynn and Farsley did manage to get some results in their season. So Kings Lynn managed to get a win, but it was only against Farsley. And then 4 draws for them. Crystal Palace, Aston Villa and Leicester all held to a draw. Farsley managed to get a draw away from home against Chelsea, who finished 4th. A very good result, that one. It didn't really change Chelsea's league position much so. And then the following year, with the new teams coming in, an interesting thing is that it goes from 2 teams being relegated to 4 teams being relegated. I don't understand what's happened there. If we drop down to the Vanarama National League South and have a look at this league table, 24. So I'm not really sure what has happened there. Bit of an odd one, that. I don't understand it at all, but maybe somebody in the comments can let me know. But the other thing that somebody asked about in the comments is that you can actually download this database that I've created. It's on the Steam Workshop. If you search for Jenkaldo, it will be in there. I can't remember what I called it. It's probably something like English Leagues Flipped or Swapped or something like that. So have a look on Steam, or I'll put a link down below if I'm feeling generous. The other thing to look at is that in the second season of the Vanarama National League North, Methir here did manage to get a famous win in their season. They beat Chelsea 1-0 at home, so a huge result for them. Also beating West Ham 2-1. They did extremely well in their first season, not that far off Sheffield United, who did have a positive goal difference, but only because all the other teams were getting hammered by so much. I mean, just flicking over these, there's an average of about 3 goals a game from the looks of it. But the plan for today is we're going to go forward about 5 years. We'll do it 1 season at a time, look at the promotions up and down for each of those years. And at the end of the 5 years, we'll have a look at the cups, the players, the teams, see the general feel for the game 7 years into this experiment. And then next time, we will go about 50 years ahead. If you guys do want to see that, drop a like down below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're new, only around 1 in 6 people watching these videos are actually subscribed, so please do hit that button. It does help the channel grow and get these videos to more people who might be interested. But let's go forward 1 more year and see how the National League North and all of the teams coming out of it have managed to do, and if those non-league teams in the Premier League are managing to compete with Leeds, Fulham and everybody else. So starting out with the Premier League, you can see that last time, in the last episode, it was Hereford who won it the first time round. Leeds United took it the second time. And in the third season, it's actually Birmingham who've come from nowhere for an unbeaten season. Newly promoted Birmingham have come up and just done the Invincibles, joining, I think, Preston and Arsenal as the only other English teams to go unbeaten in the top flight of English football. They won the title by 7 points over Stoke, Leeds dropping back to 3rd, then Fulham, Huddersfield and Swansea, Boston, best of the rest down there. It'll be interesting to see if any of these non-league teams can actually hang it out in the Premier League over the long term, because they do seem to be struggling at the moment. You can see Spennymoor and Blythe Spartans both getting relegated, Alfreton Town down there as well. And if we drop down to the Championship and have a look at this league table, you can see Forest, Reading and Bristol all getting promoted. Now Fleetwood have managed to survive down here. It's Bradford, Leamington and Chester getting relegated. Did Fleetwood survive, or are they at that level of football? That might be my ignorance there. Bradford, Leamington and Chester though. Chester, of course, one of the teams who did make it into the Champions League in the first season, have now had 2 consecutive relegations. I do not understand why. Maybe it's the new owners coming in. They do have elections to elect their new owners. They moved to the DW Stadium, relegated from the Premier League. I mean, it's not been great for them. And now they're relegated from the Championship as well. The teams that went down to League One, where are they now? Also getting relegated for a second time. Curzon, Ashton, Gateshead and Gloucester City all getting relegated by a good chunk. They might be able to hang on to League 2 though if they're lucky, because that's not a great points difference here. So they might be able to solidify their position next year. In League 2, here are the big guns. You've got Liverpool and Manchester City both getting promoted up into League One. So this is the point where the two things have flipped, and you're now going to have Premier League teams above the non-league teams that we originally put up there. This is where it happens. Liverpool title winners, 7 points clear of their rival City, who are pushing them for that title. They have been fighting each other for the promotion. City won the first one, then Liverpool won the second title. Now they've won the third title. So it's 2-1 to Liverpool on that race to the Premier League at the moment. No other surprises in here, though. No other Premier League teams at this point. Only 2 get promoted. Looking at the National League, Manchester United winning the title on goal difference ahead of Arsenal. But Arsenal did do a 46-game season unbeaten. I don't know if that has happened before, an unbeaten 46-game season. Maybe somebody can let me know in the comments if it has. But you can see that Southampton and Brighton also got promoted because they were in the Vanarama National League South. They are a mouthful, those league names. They have managed to finish in 3rd and 4th, but they weren't able to win in the playoffs. You can see Arsenal taking out Brighton and then beating Southampton in the final. Great opportunity for Southampton that to actually get ahead of Arsenal, but it didn't quite work out that way. And if we drop down to the National League North, the original league that we created, you can see Spurs beat West Ham in the playoffs, but 4 teams finishing with over 100 points in there. But Chelsea and Spurs, 2 of the remaining big teams, both getting out of non-league football. Just looking at the bottom of this table, nobody really in any threat of getting relegated. But Crystal Palace now, well, they're the next step, but that is a huge step. 71 points to 38. That's what, 33-point difference? So no real shock there. And then looking at the Vanarama National League South, there are no Premier League teams in this league anymore after Southampton and Brighton both got promoted. Maybe they will rebalance that league. Who knows? But let's go forward another year. Oh, hang on, I didn't look at the transfers. That's a very important thing to look at. Let's have a quick look at these transfers. And you can see Andy Robertson moving to Leeds for £34.5 million. Mason Greenwood going to Huddersfield. Leeds picking up some players. Huddersfield, Stoke. But otherwise, nobody else really spending the money. £10 million spent by Geisley on Corley Woodrow. And if we drop down to the Championship, let's have a look from League 2 onwards. If we can get this to work. There you go. You can see Arsenal, Stoke, Liverpool and Man City both not really spending money. They've had a lot of players leave them though. Robertson, Shaqiri, Nikita, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Kyle Walker, Zinchenko, Mayara, Gundogan. I mean, this is a lot of players leaving City and Liverpool, and they are not replacing them. That is going to have an impact on their squads. Vanarama National League, Manchester United signing a huge number of players. They're picking up Phil Foden, Dele Alli, Connor Roberts, 24 million, Eric Dyer, Dale Lefeu, Digne, Ings. Man United really aggressively recruiting before they even really make it up the next level. And Chelsea also letting players go. Spurs letting a lot of players go. That could also come back to haunt them. So let's go forward another year and see how that league table is looking. So I've actually jumped 2 years ahead just to add a little bit more pace to the game. But you can see the season after where we left off before, Leeds United did manage to get their title back. Birmingham actually finishing down in 8th place. Nottingham Forest and Stoke up there with Huddersfield in the Champions League places. And then the teams relegated. Hereford, the original title winners, have been relegated by 1 point ahead of Darlington. Now the following year, the next league down, Cardiff and West Brom getting promoted, Middlesbrough getting promoted, Spennymoor, Alfreton and Blythe Spartans all instantly relegated for a second time. Liverpool and Man City now up into the Championship, both doing an unbeaten season with an identical 40 wins and 6 draws. The draws coming against each other, obviously, and 126 points, just 7 goals separating it. But it does make it 3-1 to Liverpool on the titles as they make their way up at the same time. The next league down, you have Man United and Arsenal getting promoted. United are also doing the unbeaten 46-game season, the best ever record, 44 wins and just 2 draws. They did manage to beat Arsenal twice on their way to that title, 11 points clear of them. but that's probably because of their huge spending. Chelsea and Spurs both getting promoted as well, ahead of Brighton and Southampton. Not a shock, that one. Another season, but they did lose, so not an unbeaten season. I saw the 0 and thought they might have gone unbeaten. And then looking at the Vanarama National League North, you can see that Burnley did go up as champions. Watford missed out as West Ham won the playoffs. So West Ham doing well there. And then in the National League South, nobody really there to have a look at from the Premier League bunch. But if we look at the next year, Leeds United with yet another title. It could be their last because it's likely that Liverpool and Man City have been promoted. They beat Swansea to it for their third Premier League title. Hopefully they've really established themselves at this point as a major club. You can see Boston, though, finishing quite high up here. York City up there in 9th place. So they finished above Reading, Bristol, all the rest of it. They have started to become a proper Premier League team. Southport in there, Guiseley and Brackley both surviving. And a bit tighter at the bottom. Nottingham Forest not that far away from it. So a little bit of a change up there. In the Championship, City do manage to win this title. So they actually make it 3-2 to Liverpool in the promotion race. So we'll see who wins the Premier League next time to see if City or Liverpool do win the bragging rights there. But Liverpool 3-2 overall. Hull City also going up. Teams getting relegated. You've got Rotherham, Fleetwood and Coventry. So that means Hereford finished in 7th place. They didn't get instantly relegated, the former Premier League champions. The teams getting relegated actually doing reasonably well, holding on to their position. Obviously their squads will have been turned over quite a bit by this point, so it does make sense. In League One, United promoted with Arsenal. Very tight at the top there. Blythe Spartans finishing in 3rd place, so they're fighting for the Championship. And Chester also getting promoted back to the Championship. So we are seeing a rebalance of English football as a result of this. And then if we go down to League 2 and have a look at the recent season, you can see Spurs and Chelsea there both getting promoted. No real shock. Huge points gap over everybody else. Curzon Ashton avoiding falling out of the Football League again. Vanarama National League, Southampton finally get that promotion. I think they've been sat in this division for 2 years. West Ham also getting promoted, but Brighton have to hang on for a 3rd straight year. And then if we go down to National League North, I think I've done the wrong thing there. You can see in the most recent year, Watford did go up as champions, 1 point clear of Wolves and Leicester, who both missed out as Everton sneak in through the playoffs. But the interesting thing is Aston Villa gone into administration. So they had a 10-point deduction. It would have given them 83, just one league position in there. No Premier League teams getting relegated from the National League North. We're not at that stage yet, but you can see the finances starting to strain. Bournemouth got moved into the Vanarama National League South, and they finished up with 122 points. They still lost 2 games, though. Concord Rangers and Eastleigh getting the wins there. So I do want to have a look at Aston Villa here and see what is going on with their finances. Insecure finances. I imagine they've probably had to flog off a lot of their players here. You can see huge transfer outlays, 6.25 million, 13.6, but 21.5. Jack Grealish going to Stoke. But they look like the first Premier League team that is starting to crack. And I want to see one of these teams get relegated. I don't want to see them all just fly up to the Premier League. And that pressure is just starting to build. Now, if we have a look at the transfers for the last couple of seasons in the Premier League, the season before, Man United with the most expensive player, but obviously they're not in the Premier League. Guiseley, though, spent 46.5 million on Daniel James. Huge signing for them. Leeds and Birmingham both pumping the money in. And then the following year, we do have Liverpool picking up the 3 most expensive players now that they're in the Championship, looking to build, taking players from Leeds. Leeds losing 4 players. I'm not sure that's a good sign. That looks like they might be being dismantled, which is not going to help as 3 times Premier League winners trying to hold off Liverpool and Man City. Otherwise, not a huge amount of strengthening going on in that league. But if we drop down to the Championship, you can see Liverpool and City started to turn the taps on, bringing in a lot of firepower. League One, the same thing happening with Arsenal and Man United. They still have that financial resource to really go for it. But if we drop down to the Vanarama National League North and look at the transfer movements here, Southport, the team, well, they're raiding Premier League teams, that's why. But no former Premier League teams really spending cash here. It's all players leaving as their reputation does start to diminish. You can see Newcastle down to 3.5 stars at this point. They've still got they've still managed to attract Brendan Rodgers as manager, which is interesting. But that is because their reputation is maintaining its place. Watford as well, 3 stars there, but they are struggling in the Vanarama National League North. So let's go forward 2 more years, which will be the final jump forward, and then we'll do the end of review kind of wrap up thing for the episode. So first season back in the Premier League, it is Manchester City who win the title, 4 points clear of Liverpool. Leeds put on a good challenge with 78 points, but they just lost way too many games, not just against Liverpool. They actually didn't lose to City and they only lost once to Liverpool, so a little bit unfortunate they couldn't turn those games into more victories. But Man City have come straight back to win the Premier League. Liverpool in second place. It's not too dissimilar to what you would expect. The following year, well, actually, you can see here Bristol City and Hull City going down. Brackley Town, another non-league team relegated. But the rest of them holding their positions. Boston trying to maintain their place in the top 10. The following year, it was Man City who won the title again. Manchester United flew into the Premier League right up into second place. Liverpool pushed down to third, Arsenal taking fourth, but Leeds fighting them all the way. And interesting to see, the Premier League has lost its 4th Champions League spot in the European ranking coefficients. So a little bit of a blow there. It's going to make it harder for some of these teams to catch up financially to City, United and Liverpool. And you can see Fulham, Southport and Telford all getting relegated. Fulham, I think, had a good run. Did they actually win a title? I can't even remember if they did win a title. No, it was Birmingham who won the other title. But they did have a good run at the title. And you can see top scorers, Brewster, Rashford up there, Dele Alli for United, Rodrigo for Man City. These teams have held on to a lot of their key players. You can see Man City have Thomas Tuchel in charge now. I don't know what happened. We'll check on their manager moves. But you can see they still have a lot of their original players in here. Well, I say a lot, actually. They've signed a lot of these from other teams. Jenkaldo's still in there. Rodri's still in there. Actually, they have pretty much overturned their entire squad, but there's still a huge amount of value in here. Almost every player worth over £50 million. So that is enormous. If we do have a quick look at their manager history, Pep Guardiola did voluntarily leave his role. He did not resign. Nearly 5 years, I say that's the end of his contract. So he gave up the go on that halfway through their campaign back to the top. Manchester United being a force. They've got Bielsa in charge now. If we have a look at their manager records, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer made it through 5 years and 88 days before leaving his role. I'm not sure why he left it. He did it after they become League One champions, and then Bielsa came in and he's managed to get them up in to the Premier League. They've still got Paul Pogba, which is interesting, but their finances only okay, which is also interesting. Rashford down 400 grand a week seems a bit too much. Liverpool in there, do they still have Klopp? No, they have Pep Collett. So I imagine that a lot of these managers have moved on for international roles. I don't know why else they'd move on unless the reputation of these big teams dropped at a certain point. But Leeds United pushing at the top. They've got a decent reputation, not quite as high, but they've got Andrew Robertson as captain, bouncing around these top positions, but it looks like they might be on a bit of a slide now. They are rich in their finances. Bernd Leno as vice captain as well. But you can see the league's starting to look a bit more like the familiar Championship in the middle, the old Premier League at the top, and then there's still a few non-league teams, but not many actually. There's only Guiseley, Boston, York City and Southport and Telford just been relegated, so only 3 teams remain at this point. Now dropping down to the Championship, just have a quick look at the seasons, and you can see City and Liverpool, no surprise that they won their leagues. We actually went a bit too far there. United and Arsenal both getting promoted quite comfortably alongside Telford, who also managed to get up. Chelsea and Spurs won it the following year, so they'll be joining the teams in the Premier League. Barnsley also managed to go up. Down in League One, Chesterfield and Rotherham, Wimbledon also going up the year before that. Chelsea and Spurs, not a big surprise. I won't bother looking at the previous years. I suppose I can. Southampton and West Ham and Leamington also going up. Bournemouth, Brighton and Salford the following year. National League, that's not what I want. You can see Bournemouth and Brighton both going up. Everton and Watford missing out. Burnley also missing out there. And then the following year, Watford and Everton do make it up. But not a lot of shock in here at all. I don't think anybody's been relegated there, have they? Nobody's even close to being relegated from the National League. In the National League North, this is where we might see. I want to keep an eye on Aston Villa, see if they did actually crack. No, they ended up finishing in 7th place. Crystal Palace and Sheffield United in there, and a bit of a gap still between, well, only 2 points actually between Villa and Stockport County, which is interesting. Surely down there as well. If we go to the following year, Newcastle and Norwich making it out. There's still Leicester, Wolves and Villa to go. I'm really hoping one of these teams would crack and just stay in this league, but it doesn't look like that is going to happen. And then looking at the Vanarama National League South, Aldershot, Hampton, Richmond, I don't think there's any Premier League teams in here whatsoever. So there we go, that's the league structure. If we just have a look at the past winners of the FA Cup, you can see it's actually interesting that City, Liverpool, United did manage to win the first few, but since then it's been Birmingham and Leeds twice. So they may not have won the Premier League, but they have won the FA Cup 2 times in that period. And the Carabao Cup, pretty much the domain of City and Liverpool after they got promoted into League Football after Leeds and Fulham won the first few, but Stoke with a surprising win in there. Birmingham getting 2 final appearances without lifting the trophy. Now if we have a look at the Champions League and just see really if they managed to get anybody into the knockout rounds, that's what we really care about. So if we drop back to where we started, no English teams in that knockout round. We do have Birmingham in here, beaten by Barcelona in the knockout stages. That's exactly what we want to see. Barcelona going to Birmingham and getting a 3-0 win. The following year, Leeds getting beaten by Napoli in the knockout stages. Only one English team making it through. Leeds made it through again though, and they managed to actually get through against Porto. Swansea knocked out by Lyon. Oh no, did Swansea? No, Lyon got knocked out. How did Lyon get knocked? How did Lyon win that on away goals? If Swansea won 3-2 and it was 3-3 on aggregate, that does not make an awful lot of sense. But in the next round, Leeds were beaten by Valencia. I guess these must just be meaningless. I don't really understand what's going on there. That's not home and away. And then the following year, we have Leeds managing to make it through against Napoli. City beaten by Milan. So Leeds making it to the quarterfinals again, but couldn't get past Lazio. Lazio doing Italy proud. The following year takes us up to the current day. So in that time, Barcelona, Real Madrid, La Liga dominating it now for 7 years in a row. Europa League though, if we look at the past winners here, any shocks in here? Not really. Liverpool have won it most recently. City did make a final a few years ago but lost to Milan. United have made a final but lost. Otherwise, not a great deal of shocks. I'm just tempted though if they did manage to make it, any of the non-league teams. If we look at the stages here, I just want to see if they did make it to any of the knockout rounds. You can see Leeds and Fulham. Next year, Fulham and Stoke, Birmingham and Huddersfield. I don't think any non-league teams would be in here at this point. So there you go. So that is pretty much everything that there is to look at there. Might have been a long episode today, but next time we will just fly through it because there's less looking through the pyramid. We're just going to have most of the Premier League teams back up, but we're going to see if there will be a break in the dominance and hopefully one of those non-league teams that are still in the Premier League. If we have a quick look, at that table. Hopefully a team like Boston, Guiseley or York, who are hanging on in there at the moment, hopefully they can maybe challenge this dominance at the top, and it will all have been worth it. Otherwise we could just be going back to exactly where we left off. But do drop a like down below if you've enjoyed this experiment. Make sure to subscribe if you're new around here. But until next time, see ya.